Poilievre looks just like Justin on equalization payments. Very interesting there, saying, no, they're not going to do anything different there. And he's not going to do anything different with the abortion, pre-birth, anything like that, pre-birth protection, etc. All of that kind of stuff, very status quo. We're not going to do anything different. We're just going to have the same thing that the liberals want. And the way we're going to fight Donald Trump, tariffs, counter tariffs, right? Retaliatory tariffs. And I think that that's a terrible, terrible plan. I think that maybe we should listen to the ask and see that it's reasonable and actually do something about it, right? And it's very interesting how Pierre Poilievre is enjoying the status quo. He thinks a lot of the stuff that Canada is already doing, that's great. We like taking money from Alberta and giving it to Quebec. That's a wonderful idea. Crazy town. Constitutional amendment for a third Trump term. Yes? No? I think it's been brought up. I don't think it's actually passed, but I thought that was interesting. Trump himself was talking about that. So I'll show you that. Houston, that's Tim Houston, Nova Scotia, calls for an Energy East pipeline. So very interesting. Trump is getting conversations started, and why not fast track it, right? Let's get a pipeline east and let's stop importing foreign oil. Wouldn't that be a good idea, don't you think? The other week I was talking about how Trump was saying that NATO doesn't spend enough. NATO at 2%, the target for 2% spending is not enough. It should be 5%. And he announced it yesterday, again at the WEF Trump speech. And he said, NATO countries have to pay 5%. That's it. Here we go, right? And so very, very interesting. And he's also made an order with regards to central bank digital currencies, saying that the United States will not pursue it. Although Catherine Austin Fitts is very concerned that what Trump's putting together, the AI Stargate system, is worse than any central bank digital currency. But I don't have any links on that. I'm waiting to hear a speech from her so she can explain it. I've got like a little tweet, but I don't have the robust thing. And could she be right? I don't know. If she's worried, I'm worried. But man, there's so many things going on. It's head spinning. Lots going on. Well, I mean, we've got Justin Trudeau's got his sweater on backwards, trying to negotiate with Donald Trump, and he can't figure out how to put on a sweater. I mean, come on, man, for crying out loud. And the tariff stuff is going on. Poilievre leadership. Chrystia Freeland has, a very public private moment, I think. Anyway, lots going on. Let's get to it. First, we're starting with Trump. Eric says, a constitutional amendment has been filed allowing President Trump to seek a third term in office. Quote, no person should be elected to the office of president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected 2 consecutive terms. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. It was filed by Congress Andy Ogles, Republican from Tennessee. So that's interesting and something to pay attention to, right? This is a seed planted for later when it is reported that Trump is seeking another term in office, because they're telegraphing what they're intending to do. Okay, that's what they want. They want 2 terms. They want 2 terms for Trump. He wants 2 terms, and then Vance can have 2, right? Alex Jones is reporting Trump declares war on the NWO, tells Davos elite that their anti-human agenda is over, and proceeds to talk about the dismantling of the terrible Obama and Biden regime agenda. Watch our stream live. The whole speech was interesting. This is just 6 minutes of it. If you can find the whole speech, I think it's like 45 minutes, but the speech was half an hour, and there are questions for 15 minutes roughly. And it was really super duper interesting. He did not go there to kowtow to the WEF. He didn't go there to do anything other than negotiate using the bully pulpit. He's the president of the United States, the most powerful democracy in the world, republic in the world. And so he's standing in there, and he called out the Bank of America CEO. He called out all of the NATO countries during this speech. It's a very, very broad speech. You should probably spend the time and go watch it. It's interesting. It's super duper interesting. I'm not going to play any of this, but one thing I want you to look. Can you see the hidden message in this? Do you know what he's saying here? Do you know what President Trump is telegraphing without saying a word with this setup behind him? He's a showman. Okay. Ringmaster was the word I was looking for yesterday. I was saying the director of the circus, right? So somebody said ringmaster is the word. Thank you. Thank you. So the ringmaster is standing there, and he's in the spotlight. And what are the things that you can see in the spotlight? Now, you've got the presidential seal, That's not sending a message. That kind of blends because that just is what you see, right? But what's this right here? Another presidential seal, but it's not, right? Not really. It's the Roman eagle, right? And E pluribus unum is very, very prominent, and the eagle. Okay, so what does that message say? Here is Google, and it says, what does the Roman eagle symbolize? And it says the Roman eagle, or agula, represents power, strength, authority. It was a symbol of the Roman Empire and often depicted with lightning bolts. So here it is, right? Oh, I can't. It's not popping up, but it's very, very, very similar to the eagle beside Trump, right? It's not exact. The eagle's head's turned the other way. Notice, right? But it's close. And I asked Google, does the USA use the Roman eagle? Yes, the Roman eagle, or agula, is the symbol of the United States. So, right, interesting. And that was from 1782, this founding fathers, blah, 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 blah. And very, very interesting. So the message being sent here is the message of the Roman eagle, the message of the power being projected, right? I think that's what's going on there, personally. And again, I'm going to show you clips in a minute, but Justin Trudeau, gov.exe, says, imagine trying to threaten an economic superpower while having your sweater on backwards. We've officially reached peak retardation in Canada. So Justin Trudeau came down, and everybody's kind of looking at the sweater, and it's like when he got that bad haircut, and everybody kind of was uncomfortable because he looked ridiculous. He looks ridiculous. Here's gov.exe again. It says, Trudeau says his team is prepared to respond to Trump's tariffs, saying every tool is on the table, then blames America for their weak border security that allowed Mexican cartels to smuggle drugs into Canada. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, Justin Trudeau quit. Why is he in charge of the response right now? And he actually didn't quit. He said he intended to quit after the leadership race. So everything's exactly the same as it was. He's the prime minister, and he's expected to respond to all this. And man, it's unfortunate because he's an idiot. Here is Justin Trudeau talking about the tariffs. And
Donald Trump has announced that he wants a golden age for the American economy. The federal government has continued to say clearly, as I will, that everything is on the table. If he does move forward on tariffs on Canada, as he has said, whether it be back on January 20th or on February 1st or February 15th.
If he moves back in time and puts these tariffs on January 20th, I swear we will respond. Thanks, Justin. That's genius.
Valentine's Day present, or on April 1st, or whenever he says he's going to do it, as he keeps repeating, two things will happen. One, Canada will have a strong, robust response, because we don't want this, but we will respond if necessary. And two, prices for American consumers on just about everything will go up. And we don't think he wants that. So we're going to be there. He has talked about the border as being a great preoccupation for him. We have highlighted that less than 1% of illegal drugs coming into the United States, less than 1% of migrants going into the United States come from Canada. But we're still investing over $1 billion in strengthening our borders. And as an illustration of what we've been saying all along, Toronto Police and the border.
So the problem with it, though, is he's not addressing the bringing in of Gazans who hate America and giving them $3,000 and just letting them loose in the country. He's saying we're going to patrol the border with these Black Hawk helicopters, but at the same time is exacerbating the issue by bringing potential terrorists to this landmass and allowing them access to the United States because of our porous land border. That's what's being ignored.
Just seized about 835 kilograms of cocaine coming in from the United States into Canada via Mexican cartels. So we have challenges at our border on both sides of the border, and we are there to work constructively.
No, they're not operating in good faith. And instead of acknowledging the issue, they're blaming Trump, which is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Here is Trump talking about Canada, and Tokyo Rosie says, Trump is going to hit Canada at the very things that made us prosperous. We've been able to build a massive welfare state on the backs of the U.S. economy for years while doing nothing to build our own military or diversify our exports. A margin call is coming, and we've got nothing to cover it. This is the equivalent of Trump saying directly, see this $200 billion hole in your budget? I'm going to blow it. That's what he's saying here. Here's Trump on Canada.
One thing we're going to be demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. We do one thing we're going to.
So, yikes. Right? And Trudeau's response is ketchup? Ketchup? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a second. MAGA Voice is also highlighting Donald Trump raking the Bank of America over the coals. And Bank of America is just trying to cover their butts. And this has a community note on this tweet. And so they screenshotted it, but I don't know if it's real or if somebody made it up. But it says Bank of America has been placed on notice by 15 states' attorneys general for debanking conservatives. Your discriminatory behavior is a serious threat to free speech and religious freedom, is potentially illegal, and is causing political and regulatory backlash, the Kansas AG Chris Kobach wrote. I believe it's correct. I believe it's real. So that's interesting. Here's Trump calling out the Bank of America, and then I'll show you the Bank of America tweet. But this is the interaction at the WEF.
And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business, and I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
So there you go. They were talking soccer, World Cup soccer. They were talking Olympics, and Trump is excited because he gets the Olympics, and that's a big world event, right? He's excited to do it. Here's what Bank of America put out after Trump called them out at the WEF. They put out a tweet that says, Bank of America serves more than 70 million clients, and we welcome conservatives. We would never close accounts for political reasons, and we don't have a political litmus test. Foundering. Bank of America is your bank, man. Just kidding. I don't know if he's American or if he's Canadian. I don't know. I have no idea. And don't get a Bank of America bank account, because they do censor conservatives. Here's CTV News reporting Saudi Crown Prince says the KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, intends to invest $600 billion in the United States during call with Trump. So Trump is, because before it seemed like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was dancing closer to Russia, China, and BRICS. Right. And now they're saying, yeah, we're going to invest $600 billion in the United States. So everybody's playing nicey nice. Weird, right? It's kind of weird. Ryan Garrison highlights the Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston. He wants Ottawa to approve the Energy East pipeline. Projects like this should have been approved years ago. Years ago. We should have pipelines going all across this country, and oil and gas should be super cheap. We should have a situation where oil and gas and food are so cheap and abundant that nobody's hungry. The only reason people are hungry is because they don't want to eat. They're on a diet. Okay? And then by extension, you can make so much money. If the food is so cheap and you're a good cook or something like that, then you add all that value, right, with your expertise, and the ingredients are negligible, right? So you can make a good business. Just one example, but you see what I mean, right? So we absolutely should. And it's criminal that we don't. We have people who are working against the best interests, the better interests, the interests of Canada, Canadians, and our benefit, by not allowing these pipelines. And if I was Doug Ford, if I was in a position of premiership power or something to that effect, I'd start building the pipeline now. We're building an east-west pipeline. We're building a north-south pipeline. When trucks get in to driving distance of this pipeline, instead of driving across Ontario, offload here and pick it up on the other side. I don't know if that makes sense, but pipelines, why not? Holy smokeronies, why not? Here's Tim Houston talking about pipelines. Here we go. I don't think he's as enthusiastic as I am. Here we go.
But certainly during the discussion, I called for the Prime Minister and asked the federal government to immediately approve the Energy East project. That's something that they could do, and I encouraged them to do. There was support from a number of premiers on that as well. If we needed more urgency to strengthen our country, we got it, right? So we need to make sure that we have incredible natural resources. We have to recognize that and tap into that potential. That's a strength we have as a country. It's certainly a strength we have as a province. Oh, diversification it kind of goes without saying that we need to make sure that there are customers all around the world for what we have. And the United States is a huge market, and it's been a convenient customer. But now is the time to also, of course, look for diversification, not only across our country but around the world. And a project like the Energy East could move resources from the west to the east and then onto Europe. Like, it will open up incredible opportunities for our country.
I mean, shame there's no business case to sell LNG to Europe. That's what? You mean there is a business case? Oh, you're kidding. Right Blend is talking about Canada, and this is where Trump's. I had to go look for Trump's thing. This is where Trump's talking about Canada, and Right Blend is responding to that, and he's right, and he says, 1, Trump is serious. He was never trolling, which I think we caught on to early on. 2, the U.S. can easily find new trading partners and move all of the products they want to and from their country. They have lots of ports and infrastructure. We don't. The U.S. has far, far more industrial capacity than we do. Thanks to decades of red tape and over-the-top environmentalism, our industries are weak and neutered. Yes, this is an unparalleled crisis. We effectively do not have a government to deal with it. We have a petulant child or children who are playing drama club and bringing us all down with them. To them, it's a show, a popularity contest, a liberal leadership race. To us, it's our livelihoods, our future, and our country. 5, it's time for Parliament to come back. It's time for an election so the people can choose our leader to deal with this disaster, and Canadians will choose decisively. Liberals are afraid of Canadians having a voice because it will mean they're out of power. It's all about clinging to power no matter the cost, and the cost may be our country. And again, I may play the Trump thing again, but I'm not going to right now. I think that it's interesting, if Trump brings tariffs in, it will hurt us so much that it will be easy for him to economically just take over Canada at that point in time. People will be begging for it. You see what I'm saying? I don't think it'll last. If it happens, it won't be a long-term thing. The government will just lose control, right? When you're in a situation where your idiocy led to this problem, then you don't maintain control as the consequences of that problem pile up and pile up and pile up, in my opinion, right? And I mean, that's kind of coming to fruition anyway. The Liberals are the reason healthcare is collapsing. Liberals are the reason our economy's in the shitter. Liberals are the reason for all of the problems, and they're politically DOA, right? Like, they're dead on arrival. They're zombies. They're lame ducks. They're going to be voted out, and they're using political tricks to maintain their power, and nobody's falling for it. Nobody's like, oh, maybe Mark Carney will restore the Liberal brand. Like, if they came in and said, I'll restore free speech protections and we're going to consult JFK Jr. on health and stuff, I still wouldn't believe him. I'm saying if they came in and said, we'll do everything you want, please let us keep power, I would still kick them to the curb because I don't trust them, because they're lying scoundrels. Okay. And that's being real nice. I could use real not nice language, but I'm trying to be nice. And just for the audience, not for them. Breaking 911 says, we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. If you're a state, we won't have to deficit. We won't have to tariff you. So the solution is you're so economically weak. This is the pitch. You understand? This is the purchase pitch. You're so economically weak that your economy is going to collapse. And here's the get out of jail free card. All you have to do is become a state. I can make the pain stop right now, right? I can justify it then. If you're a state, I can justify all this money to you. If you're not, if you're another country, what? Nope, right? And if we didn't need it, it wouldn't be a big deal. But we need it, clearly, because it's a huge deal. It's going to destroy our economy. So it won't last, is what I'm saying. Because Trump will come in and be like, okay, now you're a state. Boop. Magic wand, Trump is done. Do you know that 2 days before, Trump was sworn in, North Carolina, impacted by Hurricane Helene, or whatever they're calling it. People were freezing in tents, didn't have access to anything. Trump gets in it, and within a day, within 24 hours, people are in furnished apartments. It's incredible. So like when I say can wave a magic wand, yeah, right. When I bought a city started following me from another civilization, and I as soon as I had control of the city, I clicked on it, and they didn't even have sewers, so I bought them sewers, and I bought them. They had a deficit of what's it called, amenities, and so I bought up to the proper amount of amenities for the city, and the people loved me, right? And I was like, oh, I just waved a magic wand. Trump would do that, right? Like, and not buy a sewer and amenities, but put us back to the way things maybe kind of used to be, but everything would be different. Everything would be different. Conceal carry, right? Second Amendment, First Amendment. I'm just kidding. I'm sure it wouldn't be that easy, but the Canadian government's response is making it easy because it's making Canada weak. The weaker we are, the easier it is for Trump to just walk in and just dominate us economically. The plan was not for Trump to do this, for Trump to consolidate North America and Greenland. That wasn't necessarily the plan, maybe. But the plan was for Canada to be so economically weak that the only solution was central bank digital currency and communism. That was what we were going to be pushed into. Okay. So maybe the alternative is better. Maybe. Gov.exe says, rather than securing the borders, Justin Trudeau wants to go to war with the United States after running from a bunch of truckers and declaring an emergency on kids playing on bouncy castles. We are not a serious country. And Not a Liberal says, we are ready for war, locked and loaded. And he's got the ketchup bottles, right? And that's actually closer to reality than anybody cares to admit. Here's True North. Prime Minister Trudeau is asked to respond to President Trump's 5% NATO ask. And here's the 5% NATO ask. I knew it was in there somewhere, but I didn't know exactly where. Hold on. Yeah, that's right. So here is Donald Trump talking about 5% NATO. NATO doesn't pay enough, and NATO's got to pay. Here we go.
Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States.
Pretty crazy, right? So 5% necessary. And here is Justin Trudeau responding. And again, he's coming down the stairs and everybody's thinking, does he have the sweater on backwards?
Country should spend 5% on defense. Can you address his comments, please?
Over the past number of years, we brought Canada's defense spending up from below 1%, where it was under the previous Conservative government, to a path towards full 2% in the coming years.
1% in the Conservative government to a path to 2% in the coming years. So you haven't taken it up that high, eh?
We have close to tripled projected defense spending since 2015, and we're going to continue to work with our NATO partners to make sure that we're doing everything.
Projected defense spending? Like in the future, like in 2030, 2040, 2050, things are going to get real good. Those guys are definitely going to increase defense spending for sure. Wink.
Necessary to keep Canada safe. The next NATO meeting is in Netherlands in The Hague, but Canada has a strong track to invest in protecting the North, protecting Canadians in a complicated world.
Is 5% unrealistic? Is it unrealistic?
This is 5% unrealistic. They don't have a plan to get to 2%. They have no intention of getting to 2%. They didn't think that they had to get to 2% because they didn't think Trump was going to actually win again. And I think he's going to be a dominant force for the next probably decade. Okay. True North says President Donald Trump says, I'm going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP. Yep. That's what he's doing. Gov.exe says after Justin Trudeau told Canadians to switch to French's ketchup from Heinz to save money in a trade war, Heinz put out a statement calling Justin Trudeau a jackass. Fearing trade row, Kraft Heinz assures Canada its ketchup is 100% Canadian. So Kraft Heinz wants Canadian shoppers to know that despite what Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau suggests, the Heinz ketchup on the country's store shelves is made with 100% Canadian tomatoes. The outgoing Prime Minister says that in the event of a trade war with the United States, Canadians might want to substitute U.S.-made goods with Canadian-made substitutes, citing this week's example during the first Trump administration when Canadians were encouraged to buy French's ketchup produced by McCormick because the ingredients were Canadian. Kraft Heinz says the company has produced ketchup in Canada throughout its history, with the exception of the period between 2015 and 2020. The company adds that it's one of the largest buyers of Canadian-grown tomatoes. So just for 5 years there, they weren't, but now they're back. And they'd like you to correct that. So interesting. Solomon Sima says, how about instead of fighting with a country that has an economy 10 times larger than Canada's and banning American wine and ketchup, we just simply stop importing Hamas sympathizers from Gaza and secure our borders. Marco Rubio is now the Foreign Secretary of the United States. It seems Justin Trudeau and anyone behind him are more Team Hamas than Team Canada. And so, yeah, it's very interesting because Marco Rubio seems to have his finger on the pulse. Here's a quote attributed to Rubio. He says, the possibility of terrorists crossing the U.S.-Canada border is deeply concerning given the deep penetration of Gazan society by Hamas. It would be irresponsible for the United States not to take necessary heightened precautions when foreigners attempt to enter the United States. Yes, they know. And the more we behave like idiots and don't address the actual ask, which is stop letting terrorists have access to our porous border and stop sending drugs across the border, specifically fentanyl. And the more we do things like allow Justin Trudeau to say, yeah, what about the cocaine that comes across Canada's border? Doesn't help. It doesn't help. It doesn't fix it, right? And so if we have to go through a period of pain to understand Trump's serious, that's on our leadership, who is not taking Trump seriously enough, if you ask me. Justin Trudeau appointed John Charest, who lost the Conservative leadership, and everybody wanted him to just go away, to the U.S. Council on Figuring Out What to Do on the Tariffs, which is basically anything at all but what Trump is asking. So, which is weird. John Charest says the U.S. government is facing a dilemma. It wants to cut taxes and reduce the size of government, yet it also plans to impose tariffs that will increase inflation. Watch my interview on the CBC's National. You know, I don't think Trump could possibly care less about what a Canadian economist from, Quebec, like John Charest, thinks. I don't think he could care any less at all, period. I don't think at all. So John Charest's color on this, it's not going to get to Trump's ears. And if it does get to Trump's ears, he's going to dismiss it right away, right? Absolutely right away. But it's interesting that Justin Trudeau thinks putting these Laurentian elites on some committee is going to help. Like, this is doing nothing at all. Wasting money, wasting time. Yeah, but it's not fixing the problem. Nothing at all to fix the problem, right? And so that's annoying. Very annoying. Justin Trudeau says these leaders in industry, policy, and labor know that our free trade deal with the United States is a win-win. They're fighting with us to protect it for workers and businesses on both sides of the border. Do you know the only person putting it at risk? Justin Trudeau. Because he's importing Gazans and giving them money and access to the United States border when the president just asked him to secure the border. Please stop sending illegal terrorists over the border. Please stop sending fentanyl over the border. Justin Trudeau brings in illegals who will carry fentanyl. Right? Wild and crazy times. So like, he can appoint all these people and they can have all these pretend meetings and stuff and talk about how important they are, but it doesn't do a damn thing to solve the problem. Not at all. And so we're stuck with that, by the way, too. Gov.exe says, I'm old enough to remember Team Canada shutting down business, freezing bank accounts, calling us Nazis, saying that their patience is wearing thin, and asking if we should be tolerated. I'm sorry, but I have no faith in these a-holes putting anything but themselves first. Yeah. Yep, me too, right? So like Wab Canoe and like a lot of these people, I don't trust. Doug Ford, Justin Trudeau, LeBlanc there, Mel Jolie. No, I don't trust any of these people at all, period. I wouldn't trust them to water my plants. I don't have many plants either, and I wouldn't trust them. So the fact that they're deciding what to do about Donald Trump's trade war, and like at this point in time, I think Trump's right. I think Trump is like his assessment of the situation. He's correct. And Canada has been difficult to deal with and kind of a-holes for years now. And we need to either smarten up or we're going to get slapped. And if we get slapped, That's on the a-holes leading us. Regina Leader Post says, laundering of fentanyl cash linked to online betting sites, intelligence agency warns. This is yet another one of those things where we say that we're, look at all this Mexican cocaine coming in from the United States. But again, that's ignoring the ask, right? And we don't look at this. Justin Trudeau's not saying we're cracking down on the betting sites that are funding fentanyl. Didn't say that, right? Canada's intelligence agency suspects online gambling platforms are being used to launder proceeds from fentanyl dealing and production. In an operational alert, the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center of Canada says there's reason to believe people are depositing and withdrawing funds at online casinos to disguise proceeds from the traffic in deadly fentanyl after other opiates and other opiates as wagers and winnings. The new published alert says known fentanyl traffickers have frequently sent money to digital gambling sites and received funds in return from associated payment processors in Canada, Malta, and the United Kingdom. The federal center, known as FinTrack, identified cash linked to money laundering and terrorism by sifting through millions of pieces of data annually from banks, insurance companies, securities dealers, money service businesses, real estate brokers, casinos, and others. The agency then discloses the resulting intelligence to its partners, including Canada's spy agency, RCMP, and other police services. The operation alert flags numerous telltale signs to help businesses detect and report suspicious dealings that may be linked to highly addictive fentanyl, which has driven an alarming overdose crisis in Canada. So it's interesting that instead of dealing with fentanyl and stopping it, they want to do a trade war with the United States. Take that. We'll tax your ketchup. Ha ha ha. Right? Pretty wild stuff, really, if you ask me. This is another video of Trump threatening, saying that NATO states need to contribute 5%. And it's interesting because he's not been quiet about this. This isn't new. This isn't coming out of left field. When he said it before, people dismissed him because they thought, oh, he's Donald Trump and he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. What he's saying is unrealistic. Now he's the president again and probably going to be the president for a little while. And it's a situation where he wants 5% or you're out. I bet you other countries are going to figure it out. And if Canada doesn't, well, more fool us. Right. And again, the United States could weaken us to the point where they just walk in and say, we got 10 guys in a truck here and we're just going to take over Canada. OK, so you want to put up a fight? Really? Get out of the truck, guys. Don't make me tap the side, Canada. It's pretty crazy stuff. Here's Colin DeMello, and he says Premier Doug Ford will call an election on January 29th. Global News has learned, setting the stage for a rare winter election. Election day is February 27th. Earlier today, the Premier remained coy about the date. Do we have time to get a political party together? No? Darn it. I mean, I haven't seen anybody else getting a political party together in Ontario, so it looks like we're going to have 4 years of Doug Ford, and he's basically Justin Trudeau. So it's unfortunate. He's a liberal. He's allowed gender ideology to permeate his office. I called his office yesterday trying to talk to him about gender ideology, and I contacted the education minister asking how a parent could set a meeting with them, with the new minister. And they didn't get back to me. And they have a reply standard of 15 days. And my question was simply, how do I set a meeting with the minister? They didn't respond to me. So I was trying to talk to Doug Ford, and they put me through to different different phone numbers and things like that. After I called the Premier's office and I talked to the customer service guy. When you call the Premier's office, they have a preamble before you can talk to them that says, don't be racist and don't be mean. And I was like, what? I was like, the whole power dynamic is shifted by having the preamble they have to the customer service person. And it ignores the role the government has in the citizen calling to complain. It's a very, very bad. I found it bad. Anyway, I talked to the customer service guy. They elevated me to the next level of phones up, and it said push 2 if you want to leave a message, push 3 if you want to talk to reception, or vice versa. I can't remember which one was which. And I pushed 2, and it said that menu item is not configured. That no number exists here. And I was like, oh, okay. And I pushed 3, and it said no number exists here. Goodbye. And I was like, what? So it hung up on me. So there isn't an alternative. Doug Ford's going to win an easy re-election. The Liberals, I doubt, are going to make gains. Bonnie Crombie might be removed as Liberal leader because she was ineffective. And well, then we're stuck with Doug Ford until 4 years from now, 29, right? So amazing. I think that's how it's going to play out, but I'd love to be surprised, I guess. We'll see. NDP are probably going to be the opposition again because the Liberals are terrible. Absolutely terrible. Peter McCaffrey says, let's talk about our grab bag of governance, and then we're going to talk about leadership of Chrystia Freeland and the rest of them. And it's the leadership series of tabs is very interesting. But here's our grab bag of governance. Peter says, this is a terrible decision from Pierre Poilievre. Albertans voted to abolish equalization, but Conservatives won't even consider reforming it. The chances of a real serious separation movement getting going in Alberta just went up significantly. So Pierre Poilievre says he wouldn't make any big changes to the equalization program. Oh yeah, we'd keep Quebec having all that money, and we'd keep supply management too, right? And so when I say the Conservative Party is corrupt and compromised, that's what I mean. It's compromised by deals made years ago with supply management and dairy farmers and things like that. And these deals are the deals that keep the money flowing to the coffers of the Conservative Party, right? Like Harper and the Canadian Alliance and all of these people made deals with when the Conservative Party was coming together, when all of these parties consolidated into one party, into the Conservative Party, it kind of inherited all of these deals. And I was talking the other day about like how to build a party, right? You have 2 or 3 businesses like Hitachi or like Linamar. That's what the dairy cartel is for the Conservative Party. It's an integral part of the party. So he's not going to change that, right? A lot of people in Quebec, the Conservatives are frozen out of Quebec. So I don't know what reason Pierre Poilievre wants to keep the equalization payments going to Quebec for, but I'm sure he's got a reason. Maybe he's buying seats there, right? Who knows? But I'm not surprised. That's what I'm trying to say. The Conservatives, I don't know how much you can trust the party. I don't know Pierre Poilievre, maybe he's not a globalist, but the Conservatives are beholden to some really bad ideas, like the party itself. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, unfortunately. Western Standard says Poilievre vows no big changes to equalization program under the Conservative government. Oh, well, what are you going to do, right? Here's Saskatchewan sets a deadline for school change room policies about transgender students. And so there was issues with boys changing in girls' change rooms that fast-tracked this, but I thought that was just not allowed, period. Saskatchewan government is mandating that all school divisions create and publish classroom change room policies by June 30th, following a Western Standard exclusive report on the Balgoyne changing room scandal. The story revealed that 2 biological boys were changing in a grade 7 female changing room and came out during a fall provincial election, sparking widespread debate on student privacy and safety. Education Minister Everett Hindley said the new requirement is meant to ensure the well-being of all students. We want to ensure privacy, dignity, and comfort of all students, said Hindley. It's also important for parents, guardians to be aware of the steps being taken to ensure the comfort and safety of all students. Through our consultations, many school divisions informed us that they are in the best position to make these decisions at the local level. Under the ministerial directive, each school division must work closely with parents, guardians, and students to create guidelines that respect local needs. I'll be interested to see how that works, because often parents and guardians are boxed out for stakeholders and teachers. So like the teacher who's running it, their acolyte, and students who are indoctrinated and loud about it, and they cut the parents out. That's been my experience anyway. When local needs are being, quote, local needs are being considered. The ministry. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful